Hi everyone, my name is Tina Persinger. Today I'll be discussing the 2016 system outage that happened to Delta Airlines. So on August 8th of 2016, Delta Airlines had an IT system outage at their Atlanta headquarters. The outage was caused by a power surge that resulted in a loss of power. When power restored, they found that critical systems failed to switch to backup systems. So the outage resulted in 2,300 canceled flights and over $1 million in revenue lost. Delta was able to resume operations with their original system while they worked on their newer system. But of course, significant delays were still taking place. So following the initial outage, crisis continued when federal flight crew laws created scheduling conflicts. When it comes to flight attendants and pilots, they're only allowed to work a certain number of hours before they time out, and then they're required to rest for a certain number of hours before they're allowed to go back to work. So when a lot of cancellations occur, flight schedules get mixed up, and of course, you experience further delays. So I was actually working for Delta Airlines at the time of this outage. So on top of flight crew delays, we also experienced baggage delays, excess in passengers, so we were overbooked on every flight. And it took us about a week here in Fairbanks to restore back to normal operations. So you can imagine what the larger stations experienced. So now that we know what the crisis is, we'll move on to crisis management. So the crisis began at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and Delta released their first statement regarding the crisis at 5:05 a.m. with a brief statement regarding the outage, just letting customers know what was happening. Of course, they continued with periodic updates from 6:55 a.m. to 10 p.m. And about 1:30 p.m., they had their CEO, Ed Bastian, publish a statement. So here is that statement.
I'm Ed Bastian. I'm speaking to you today from our operations and customer center, where we've got Delta teams working around the clock to restore our system capabilities. As I'm sure you can appreciate, it's a all hands on deck effort. We lost power at about 2:30 this morning, which caused us to implement the ground stop that we put in place at 5. I apologize for the challenges this has created for you with your travel experience. The Delta team is working very, very hard to restore and get these systems back as quickly as possible. For those of you who have been inconvenienced and need to access and make changes to your travel plans, we have instituted system-wide waivers, and you can access those through either delta.com or by talking to any of our reservation agents. I appreciate the hard work the Delta team and the Delta people are doing to bring our system back up as quickly and as safely as possible. And once again, apologize for any inconvenience this has caused to you, our customers.
So as we can see, Ed Bastian included an explanation, an apology, reassurance that the situation was being worked on with top priority, and information for those directly affected by the outage. The fact that the CEO took the time to release the statement is a great display of sincerity from the company on a public relations platform. So during the crisis, Delta published the waivers that Ed Bastian mentioned for August 8th and 9th, the day of and the day after the outage. The waiver covered entitlement to refund for significant delays or cancellations. In addition to customers experiencing these delays and cancellations also were entitled to a $200 Delta voucher. So it was another great display of sincerity and intent to make customer satisfaction of top priority. The day following the crisis, Delta released another statement from COO Gil West, and he explained how the outage happened, what recovery looked like for the Delta team, and the magnitude of the outage took on scheduling operations. So he included explanation on flight crew regulations and the scheduling conflicts that was taking a toll on. He also followed up with another apology on Delta's behalf. So Delta acknowledged that, of course, the crisis, was their fault, and they were apologetic to everybody involved and took ownership of it. So I believe Delta handled the situation as best as they could. They took ownership, even though it was a backup system failure that they were unaware of. I think moving forward, though, that they could consistently test and maybe even use these backup systems to ensure that they are working when they need them. So, of course, we covered the outage and that it happened because the backup systems failed. And better utilization of these systems could ensure that they will work when they need them. However, Delta responded to the crisis very well, taking ownership, having their CEO release a statement, and showing that they really did care about their consumers. Of course, by issuing vouchers and refunds and making sure that their customers were taken care of over trying to milk every dollar and focusing on revenue. They focused on the customers.